Derby DE10AQ. Entrance must be entered over. Line close at 2 p.m. this Friday. Good luck. Pfizer and current anti-jogger has released a series of damaging private messages from the early days of the pandemic. In March last year, Mr. Cummings sent a late-night message to Boris Johnson accusing Health Secretary Matt Hancock of failing to increase testing. The Prime Minister seemingly agreed in expletive terms. Later, the advisor raised another concern about been turning down ventilator offers because the price has been marked up, he wrote. To which the Prime Minister appears to have replied, "It's Hancock. He has been hopeless." A month later, Mr. Johnson apparently wrote, "On PPE, it's been a disaster." He appears to have suggested replacing Hancock with the ongoing. Mr. Cummings replies, "This would have a severe risk of making it worse, not better." Matt Hancock was left to defend himself from the back seat of his car. Mr. Hancock, did you really think Matt Hancock was useless, sir? Why didn't you sack him? The Prime Minister's team says it has full confidence in the Secretary. The opposition, though, says the entire government is in trouble.
It's a shambles, and actually if it's true what Dominic Cummings has said about the fact that he failed on PPE and he failed on our towns and the Prime Minister knew about that, then his question is why the Prime Minister kept him involved and allowed more people to die in this development.
Dr. Cummings himself hasn't yet finished his offensive. In a tweet, he links to his stream of messages. Evidence here, he writes, more to come. James Reynolds, BBC News.
Well, let's get more with our Chief Political Correspondent, Adam, who joins us now. Morning to you, Adam. So he may not yet be finished, and this may well be pretty embarrassing for a health secretary to be asked, as he's driving his car, "Are you hopeless?" That's embarrassing. But does any of it matter?
Well, you would have thought that if there was ever going to be a difference in public opinion about the government on the basis of what Dominic Cummings has said, it would have happened after that 7-hour-long session he did in front of MPs on the Health and Technology Select Committee a couple of weeks ago, and that didn't seem to dent the government's reputation amongst the public at all, or the public's view of Boris Johnson. So you do wonder if a continued stream of more messages being published on Dominic Cummings' blog would ever change that. But people are asking the question if there are more messages to come. He obviously took a lot of screen grabs, but are these the most dramatic outbursts of the Prime Minister, or was this behaviour actually quite typical of the Prime Minister? We could see many more swearing WhatsApp messages in the near future. And then there's the issue here that we know what Dominic Cummings' main issues are. He is very annoyed about how the government talks about its initial strategy in the pandemic. He's very annoyed about the claims that care homes were protected. He's very annoyed about the Prime Minister's leadership, and he's very annoyed about Health Secretary Matt Hancock. So we know that those are the 4 areas where if Dominic Cummings does say more, that's probably where he would focus his fire. And then also there's just a question of timing, because Dominic Cummings tends to react to things. So the reason he wrote this big blog yesterday was because he was reacting to the claims made by Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, at a previous committee hearing last week. So this raises the specter of whenever the government talks about any of these issues, will Dominic Cummings then dump a load of private, exclusive-built messages on his website.
And for the moment, thank you.
Ryanair and the owner of the Manchester, London Stansted and East Midlands airports will launch a legal challenge against the government over its international traffic lights. They want more transparency about how ministers will decide which countries qualify for green it, and say that the current system is making it impossible to plan. The government says it cautiously manages the risk of even.
Children's services in England are more focused on investing in struggling families than helping them. That's according to a new report.
An independent review into Council One Social Care says the system doesn't provide enough early support and needs urgent investment and reform. Here's more from our social affairs correspondent,
Playing and exploring in the shade at this children's centre in Hertfordshire helps children and parents make the most of life together. It's the sort of community support that today's report says should be much more widely available to all families. Certainly for these parents, it means a lot.
mum and the baby, obviously, the mum to meet new friends and to get advice and tips for themselves and also for their baby. Full of information that new parents need. We don't have a lot of information and you can go on the internet, but to actually speak to someone, go into the services and they're absolutely fantastic.
But the indication reviews were spending by councils in England on general advice and support for families has been cut by a third in recent years, with money shifting to crisis services. The review concludes that too often families end up being investigated by children's services, not supported. It says teenagers in particular are being failed by the current system, and that too many children are ending up in care. The report author says investment and reform of the system can't be put off.
If we carry on like this, it will both become more expensive, inadequate in the support it gives to children and families, and so we need to change. There's no option here where children's social care won't cost more money in the short term. The question is, do we invest and reform, or do we carry on as we are and see services not do a good enough job?
In response to the review, the government says it is putting extra money into targeting educational support earlier in the lives of young people to make sure all children have the same opportunity. BBC News.
President Biden and Russian leader Vladimir Putin have described their summit as positive and constructive, but made it clear that significant differences remain between them. Talks lasted around 3 hours, and was their first meeting since Mr. Biden's inauguration. Two sides agreed to begin a dialogue on nuclear arms control, but there was little sign of agreement on other issues, including cybersecurity and Ukraine.
The first findings from the public inquiry into the Manchester Arena bomb, which killed 22 people, will be published this afternoon. The report will focus on security arrangements at the venue and examine how Salman Bedi was able to go unchallenged before the attack in 2017. The inquiry has been going on since last September.
Over the course of the pandemic, train passenger numbers in the UK have plummeted to their lowest level since records began. To try and tempt travellers back, this morning one pilot has attempted to break the record for the fastest journey from London to Glasgow. So, as well as raising money for charity, the effort will also highlight the ease of travelling by car.
Some of the hottest temperatures of the year this week, with notified thunderstorms across the region.
Got a few pictures for you taken by weather watchers. This in Kent, I believe. Yellow warning now currently in place for most of the southeast. Some of the dramatic lightning storms that happened pretty late into the evening last night. Carol, what's it looking like to the rest of us?
That's right, Charlie. Check you out with your weather warnings. You are, of course, absolutely right. Good morning, everybody. We've seen quite a few thunderstorms during the course of last night and this morning as well. I've got one from Kent to Manston in Kent. Actually, I had 30 millimetres of rainfall from a thunderstorm during the course of the night in just 1 hour. Now, we've got some flashing pictures here, I should warn you, but we are looking at some thundery downpours in the next few days. Not all of us will see them by any stretch, but if you catch one, it could well be torrential, and for some, it may even lead to some flash flooding. There'll also be some sunny spells in the forecast too, the first of which for most of us will be in the north and the west. Now, this morning's picture is messy. We've got rain coming up across the southwest. We've got this band of thundery rain, which is currently pushing northwards, and we've got some rain across the Midlands, which is also pushing northeastwards. That will end up in the North Sea, as indeed will this band. Now, behind this band, we can see further thundery showers developing, and we still have this one to clear from the north and the east, and that will take today. What a cloud across what Wales, but in parts it will break up, and when it does, we see some sunshine, the temperature will shoot up to 24 degrees. Now, for Scotland, for North West England, and also Northern Ireland, we are looking at dry conditions with isolated showers and some sunshine. And if you're in the sunshine, these temperatures will feel quite pleasant. It's not going to be humid in the north, but it is going to be in the southeast. Now, as we head on through the evening and overnight, eventually we say goodbye to this line of showers, some of which will have some thunderstorms in it. We'll have dry spells and clear skies in the north and the west, but you can see the rain already coming up across the southeast. Again, some of this rain will be thundery, and it will also be humid. much fresher as we move northwards and westwards. So tomorrow, we've still got that rain coming across the Channel Islands and the southeast of England. Still the potential for some thunderstorms embedded in that. But we're proud ahead of it as well. But out towards the north and the west, here's where you've got the best chance of seeing some sunshine. And in that sunshine, temperatures responding accordingly. We've got 13 in Stornoway, 15 in Belfast. The top temperature tomorrow, 20. It's going to be humid in the south. But less so, we'd say less so again. But for sunshine in Naga, there's music to our ears.
Check you out with your wavy hand.
Are you two checking each other out this morning? This is what's
Always,
happening.
Naga. Always coming out, always checking each other out.
There you go. There's the headlines.
I feel like I'm watching. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
there's the
watching.
headlines. Well,
It's about 7 this time now.
after Labour's disappointing results in the local elections last month, the Keir Starmer admitted that his party needs to change.
So today he will be setting out Labour's plans on how to reunite the country's post-COVID in an effort to regain support. Let's speak to the party's chair, Annalise Dodds now. Very good morning to you, Annalise Dodds. What's the problem?
Good morning. Well, the problem is that we, for example, that those opportunities aren't being seized. That's why we're launching today Stronger Together, which is a roadmap for making sure we benefit from those opportunities. And we really learn from what our country has done during this pandemic. Obviously, it's been a dreadful time for so many people, but it's also shown that we can be stronger together. It's shown how neighbours have been able to work together to support elderly people, shown how our businesses have been able to work with trade unions, with the Welsh Government, to create ventilators in really weeks when it normally would have taken months or even years. We've shown what we can do together. So this review, this roadmap, will be putting those principles into practice and, as I say, facing up to those big opportunities that we're just not seizing right now as a country.
Isn't the problem that you can't win elections?
Well, it's certainly not true to say that, I'm afraid. You look at Wales, where Labour had the best results that we've seen since devolution. You look at the fact that Labour now overwhelmingly is represented for our metro mayors, the first female metro mayor ever, and so many of them being Labour up and down the country. You look at the fact that Labour made gains in places like Worthing, where until a couple of years ago we hadn't had a Labour councillor for 41 years. Clearly we do have a mountain to climb in some parts of the country. We really need to build that support back up, and I'm really determined that we use this process to be speaking directly with people, learning from them about the challenges facing them, and above all, as I say, learning about what's gone well during this crisis, when people have come together, and we need to build on that spirit of togetherness.
Can I just be clear then? So you're heading up a review into Labour, and your starting principle is that you don't have a problem with winning elections. Is that the principal starting point?
Our review is into policies.
So you create policies. What do you create policies for? To win elections.
At the same time as that, we obviously do need to learn from the results that we just had. We can't paper over them. You know, I stated just a moment ago the fact that Labour had made some breakthroughs, but no question about it. There were parts of the country where we've been losing support, not just at the last elections, but indeed for a number of elections. And we need to be speaking directly with people, understanding their concerns, listening to them. That's what I've been doing over the last few weeks, understanding why they might have turned away from Labour and making sure that really the policies we set out actually match their lives and their concerns. And we've been trying to do that this week, for example. You look at the catch-up plans that the government has set out, about £1, I think, per pupil. Well, we talked directly to parents up and down the country. They said to us what they were most concerned about is the fact that kids have been away from their friends for such a long time. Of course, they're worried about their progress education, but they're worried about that social contact too. That's why we set out that programme for breakfast clubs up and down the country for every child, not just for a few kids, for every child. It's that kind of policy that this roadmap is going to be focused on, speaking directly to where people are and their concerns.
So, okay, so let's talk about that. For example, you brought up the issue of the cost of catch-up learning. can you be absolutely categorical that were you in power now, that you would be giving the total, which I think is estimated at 13.5 billion, to the catch-up funds to help families, and that is in your list of your I think item 5 was the future where families come first, education's part of that. So can you categorically say that you would come up with 13.5 billion, the government has come up with 1.4 billion?
Take those funds, because actually.
So was that a yes?
It is yes.
So you would have come up with the total figure?
Sorry, I'm just going to explain why we set out those plans. It's because bodies like the Institute of Fiscal Studies, which is, as you know, an independent body, they've shown how failing to get a grip on that catch-up, to get a grip on mental health and social development for children, that will cost our country billions upon billions upon billions in the future. That is why we committed to an expansive programme of catch-up, and quite rightly too, it's an emergency programme for 2 years that we would be putting in place right now if we were in government, because we would be putting our children first. Unless we do so, as I said, we will have all of those costs stacking up for the future.
Okay, I'm just trying to crack
We've
through.
not had that social development. and
Forgive me, I'm just trying to crack through 1 or 2 items so we can make progress. So can I be absolutely clear? You say you would have funded it to the tune of 13.5 billion. You said extensive. So that number, that's a yes. Is it to that number if they were in power? Just straightforward, is that a yes to that number?
Well, if they were in power right now, we would have that emergency catch-up programme.
13.5 billion,
Set
that's a
out
yes.
with the figures that she set out for it, and quite rightly
Okay.
so, because failing to do so will cost our country enormously. It's what the government should do right now, frankly.
Can I ask you another one?
Sadly, they're letting our children down.
Try and look through your list of the roadmap. It says item 3, safe and secure communities. I'm curious about in relation to and what's happening now in relation to buildings and the costs associated that many leaseholders are having to endure. Would a Labour government, would you commit to paying all the costs associated with the buildings works that are going on now, including the amount of money that people have already had to stump up? Would you commit to that?
So I think with respect, that's a slightly, sorry, it doesn't speak, but it's a slightly confused question, because there are a number of different costs associated with this. We have set out plans to ensure that we don't have the current situation where leaseholders are effectively prisoners in their flats, where they're unable to move because they previously had promises that there would be some kind of support around the removal of cladding, and that support is simply evacuated. We set out plans for that previously. People can go and have a look at them. Certainly from what our discussions have revealed, particularly with leaseholders, but with the general public more generally.
Okay, Annalise, can I just ask you, because you'll be aware,
We're concerned about this too.
our time is limited here. Let me try and put that question a bit more clearly, if you think it's fair. Would anyone under a Labour administration be out of pocket because they live in a block of flats that is deemed to be dangerous?
Well, we don't want to see that.
Now, I know you don't want to see it, but can you commit to it?
Well, we set out those plans previously. I can't
So
remember
can you
every
commit to it?
single dot on every single I and crossing every T. But this isn't just about saying, for example, if what you're driving at is, for example, that the government should be facing up to those costs. Because we've seen businesses, unfortunately, who failed people previously around this cladding, who installed unsafe cladding previously, simply not supporting the removal of it now as well. So it's about making sure there's accountability with those businesses, which simply has not taken place until now. And it must do, because otherwise we will see future scandals where, quite frankly, people are made unsafe and potentially ripped off as well.
And just timeline, when is the end of your review? When will we know the result?
So obviously this process will be developing policies for the next month fiscal, but we wanted to get cracking on this right now. We're starting first steps by drawing together those examples of what Labour's already doing in power, where we're seeing so many cases of showing that we really are stronger together, that we can deliver.
Sorry, it was just a timeline. I was
That's happening right now. That's happening at the Labour Party conference. You asked for the timeline, so I'm giving you it. That's taking place right now. We'll be starting interim proposals for next summer, and then we'll be working on those through the following year. Of course, we could see a general election taking place earlier than that. We need to be prepared for that. But that's the timescale that's set out right now. Doesn't mean that we
So
won't be
sometime in
talking policy on other issues.
sometime in
We're doing that all the time.
2022.
And yes, currently, that's right. But as I said, that doesn't mean that we're not developing policy on other issues. We do that continuously. We need to do that as an opposition.
And Ms. Dodds, thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
24 minutes past 7 is the time. A vitally important step. That is how the Health Secretary has described the decision to make vaccinations compulsory for care home staff in England.
The policy change will also apply to anyone carrying out work inside the home, such as tradespeople or hairdressers, raising questions about how it will work in practice.
We can talk to someone who's involved, talk to two people in fact. Jeff Butcher owns 6 care homes. Richard Young is a contractor. Lovely to talk to you both this morning, Jeff and Richard. Good morning to you. Jeff, can we start with you? Tell me the situation where you're at in terms of the number of staff you have, the percentage perhaps that are vaccinated, and the conversations you've had with those who are perhaps hesitant about being vaccinated.
Sure. Across our 6 homes, we're into the mid 90% of staff who've been vaccinated. The home we're at this morning, Field House, we've got a staff group of just in excess of 50, of whom all but 3 have been vaccinated. And they're all quite annoyed about this actually, on the basis that they feel that they've been put in a position where they have got no option either to be vaccinated or to have change of career. Yeah? And this will have a very significant impact on us here in terms of staffing. And we've already had staff in other homes who said that they will resign because they've been vaccinated. And we've also had people who've indicated that they will not be interested in coming into care. So yesterday I had someone who walked out of an interview, yeah, because they didn't want to be coerced into it. So the big issue here we've got is, I think, recruitment. And recruitment is very difficult at the moment. And if we can't recruit, and if we're losing experienced staff, that in itself poses a risk.
Okay,
And then in terms of the restrictions we put on tradespeople, sorry.
Continue, sorry.
The restrictions that are going to be put on with tradespeople are going to make it very, very difficult to operate. So Richard here will not be allowed to put people into the home unless they've been vaccinated. And we've already discussed it. We really can't see how this is going to work practically.
We'll talk to Richard in just a minute. I just want to clear a couple of things up. With those 3 people and others who you fear, may not come into the care industry, do they just simply not want to be told what to do? Is that the issue? Or are they, concerned about the medicine? What's the problem and how do you react to that? Forgetting the concern you have about retaining staff or recruiting staff.
Yeah. So we're very positive to support the vaccination programme, and we have supported staff and taken them through their concerns, which is why we've got such a high percentage of them vaccinated right now. The people who currently aren't vaccinated have either got concerns that are based on religion, ethnicity, or just a core concern that the vaccine probably hasn't been tested for long enough, yeah? And they're real concerns. So we can keep providing them the information, and we will do so, but those are the real issues actually for them, yeah? There are people with very, very strong beliefs, and of course some people do not want to be coerced into something, yeah? And I totally get that. I don't think that's a society that we have, well, I certainly that I've grown up in. Yeah, and a lot of our carers are very, very passionate about these kind of issues.
Well, you introduced Richard just a moment ago. Let's speak to him now. Good morning to you, Richard. So you run a plumbing company, and so you come into care homes, and your workers will be required to have vaccinations. Tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, that's right. It makes it extremely difficult for us to manage the care homes that we do. We do a lot of work for housing association care homes as well. And most of our guys work in pairs for different reasons, you know, for safety on certain jobs. There's a lot of different reasons why you're handling. And some guys are for it, some guys are against it. It's not for us to judge as a company. We're just going to make sure our guys feel safe, they feel comfortable at work. And that's the main issue really. So it's very easy to cause animosity between the guys if they have to go and have the job, they don't want to have it, and then it makes it difficult for the guys that do have the job, working with guys that haven't had it. So it's a real difficult one for us to manage really, and keep people happy. So it's difficult.
Yeah, how will work in practice? I mean, presumably you'd be rushed into this. I know how much thought you'd be doing around how it will work in practice. So,
Yeah.
say you've got a team, you know, in I think it's a 16-week period, isn't there, by which time everything has to be in place. Let's call it week 17, and you've got a team going into the care home behind you there. I mean, are you expecting to have a kind of a document in your office saying who's been double vaccinated, who hasn't? Is that how it will work? And then you go, okay, you guys can go in there. You guys today, you'll have to go, I don't know, do a domestic job. How's it going to work in practice?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's pretty unclear, isn't it? How we have the evidence. I suppose people have got the proof that they've had the jab, so we'll have to keep a documentation of that and go from there. But from our point of view, you know, we can't force people to go to get the jab, so it really will make it difficult for us to manage where we send our guys, what jobs they can do, and likewise, especially in the plumbing industry and electrical industry. You can go to one job on the morning, you can be called out 2 hours later to somewhere like Fieldhouse. And if the guys haven't had a job who are out on a job who are free in the afternoon, you have to manipulate your guys to move people around so they can get to the jobs where they have to be vaccinated. So it's a really difficult one for contractors.
Richard and Jeff, actually, it's a question for both of you. Running out of time, but just a thought. So we've been told that this is likely to be put in place by October. So that gives what? Where are we at? July, August, September, October. So, you know, for at least three months, the period between first and second jabs is 8 weeks. So, Richard, on a practical level, you're looking at stuff that, you know, your team of just saying, yes, I'm happy to have it. And Jeff, there is some leeway here, isn't there, in terms of time and being able to adjust the business?
For sure, there's some leeway, and we can use that time to encourage staff. But I come back to it. This is at a time where we're suffering major recruitment problems, right? Yeah, so I don't see that leeway really is going to help the industry in terms of recruitment problems. Yeah, so yeah, it's a significant problem, and I think also what I would like to reflect on is that this policy only applies to people in care. It's not applying to all the other visitors who come into the care home environment. So our staff are very annoyed about this. It doesn't apply to NHS staff. It doesn't apply to local authority people. Yeah, it doesn't apply to friends and family. So which risk are we really trying to reduce here when we're exacerbating the problem with staffing? So yes, we've got some time to try and work this through, but I don't think that the core issues are going to go away, especially at a time when the care industry is suffering so much from underfunding, and the government are withdrawing all the extra funding at the end of June. So there's a whole lot of financial issues behind this as well that the DHSC obviously haven't thought through.
Okay, Jeff and Richard, thanks very much. Jeff Butcher there and Richard Young. Thank you.
Time now 7:32. That means it's time to get news, travel, and weather where you are.
Good morning and welcome to us today at breakfast. Door-to-door COVID testing begins this morning in Leek and Cheltenham. Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service and volunteers aim to test around 10,000 people for the Delta variant. It comes with 100 cases of COVID-19, most of which were identified as the Delta variant, linked to some schools in the area. West Midlands Police have begun a new initiative in the fight against gun and knife crime. We've also recruited a team of amateur metal detectorists who are helping officers search for weapons which may have been thrown away or hidden in local parks or open spaces.
Nationally and locally, it is an issue, one that we want to combat as effectively as possible. This is just another medium, another creative way address part of the problems, whether it's weapons being illegal for later use or discard the weapons.
Let's head to Gloucestershire now, where Manchester part of the M5 moved a step closer. Gloucestershire County Council wants to improve Junction 10 at Cheltenham, which only has split roads to and from the north, which puts extra pressure on congested local roads. The plan will see split roads go in both directions, improving access to Cheltenham. After years of planning and planting, Solihull Council has announced its Wildlife Ways environmental project is nearly finished. The 16-pound project has seen wildflowers, plants and bulbs planted across the borough, as well as extensive restorative and management work on brooks, grasslands and woodlands. The project sees local wildlife returning to King Transport in Chelsea Wood.
The planting of flowers increased biodiversity. We've now got various fruit and crawlies, we've now got we attract the birds, we've got flowers, we've got pollinators, we're helping to foster bees in the area. The river itself has been transformed to a more natural state.
And that just looks so gorgeous. Right, we're going to have a news now. Just a reminder, there's no service on West Midlands Metro between Bull Street and St Henry Square. There's reduced service between Wolverhampton, St George's and Bull Street. That's all due to trans safety checks, but tickets are being accepted in local buses and trains. Okay.
Hello, good morning. A bit of a change on the way as we go through today. Certainly a cloudier start to what we've experienced through this week. Could also see some spells of rain drifting as we go through the course of this morning. They will actually make their way towards the east as we go through the day. But it is staying fairly cloudy on the afternoon. Maybe just a bit of sunshine beginning to creep into the north and west of the region as we head into this evening. Still pretty warm, temperatures at 20 degrees Celsius, but of course way down what they were through yesterday. Now, as we go into this evening, it is staying mostly dry, actually. That cloud just beginning to clear away as we approach the early hours, starting to feel a little bit fresher as we make our way through to the early hours too, and those temperatures down to 10 degrees Celsius. So a bit of a cooler up to tomorrow as well. The end of the week is again looking fairly cloudy. We could see a few showers about through tomorrow, and those temperatures only getting up to 20 through this weekend.
That's it. I'll be back in an hour. See you then. Bye.
And on this is breakfast. We're now on Chetting Charlie State.
Good morning to you. The time now is 7:36. The widower of a police officer who was killed in Manchester uniform says he feels let down by British Transport.
Today, the first report from the public inquiry into the attack will be published, and it's likely to be highly critical of security arrangements around the lake. I'm North England correspondent Jude Mills as this report.
I don't know how close it was to that from maybe
All Price was at Manchester Arena when the bomb went off.
He pushing was
He just survived.
that's what I tried to do, construction of ice and how it
But it's not just his own injuries that Paul has had to cope with. It's also overwhelming grief. His partner, Elaine McIver, did not survive. One of 22 people murdered that night.
She was the woman.
Elaine was a police officer, and the dedication to her job as a detective constable has given Paul a very personal take on the police's actions before the bombing. In particular, he's been upset to discover that against instructions, there was no police officer in the foyer when the concert ended and the bomb exploded. 4 British Transport police officers were standing together at Victoria Station next door. 2 of them had earlier driven 10 miles to buy a kebab and had taken a 2-hour meal break.
The inquiry as a whole, it's been too hard. They didn't want to be let down by BCT, but I was happy that it was because of the police officer. And then after the explosion, there was a separate surveillance before the explosion. We didn't put it on. As far as I'm concerned.
The BTP officers on duty that night have since been commended for their heroism after the explosion. The force has also accepted the attack happened on its watch and has let the public down. But what about the private companies responsible for security at the arena?
the journey the bomber Salman and Baby took into the foyer and up these stairs with carefully researched hiding place out of sight for nearly an hour in a CCTV blind spot. Two teenage stewards became aware of the lady after a member of the public raised their concerns, but they didn't challenge him. Both were employed by Shosek, who did security for the arena operators, SMG.
I'll never forget when we joined, one of the senior managers in Shosek, he said when we joined, don't expect too much from these people because they weren't here with these fucking burgers.
Very young.
Some very young, inexperienced, never seen angry people in their lives. Difficult job for them.
The inquiries heard that stewards, largely casual workers, received unpaid training which they could click through in seconds on their mobile phones. SMG has accepted some shortcomings, but denies blaming others for putting profit over safety. Joseph has also admitted falling short, and said its errors have not contributed to the bombing.
Go to court and then trying their best anyway.
Egan Murray has been keeping a video diary during the inquiry. Today, she and other bereaved relatives will find out the chairman's view on security failings at the arena. Her son, Martin Hett, was murdered there. His loss has totally changed Egan's life. Before the attack, she was a therapist. Now, she's a campaigner.
Martin Hett, he was funded by the news after 60 years and never was
Egan is pushing for Martin's Law, a new duty on venues to put counter-terrorism measures in place. She hopes it will be recommended by the inquiry.
At any big venue, you have to provide so many toilets. There's laws on how the food has to be in the country, yet there is no law on security, just a recommendation, and that just cannot be right.
Today's report is expected to be critical and to identify necessary improvements.
The training went back against 2 years. And it was a combination of all our training that made it so easy for them to do one thing. Ultimately, we want to know, yeah? You're taking people away from this. I don't know.
Later this year, we'll find out exactly how each of the 22 victims died, and if any could have been saved. 4 years after that night at Manchester Arena shattered so many lives, there's still a long road ahead.
And this was there wanting to. I mean, this is a very important day, isn't it? It would be so important for the family. It's just so talk us through how it's going to work in practice.
It's a tough day and an important one because they've been building up to this since the inquiry began 9 months ago. And actually this report is the first of 3. So the inquiry chairman, Sir John Saunders, said that initially we were planning to produce one long report at the end of the hearings, but it became obvious that this is such an enormous subject. There are so many different things for things to cover. To wait until all of the hearings are finished and then go away to write it would have been an unbearably long wait as well. So he's splitting it into rolling reports. There are 3 of them. And today's we're dealing with the security viewing, which you just heard it in that report. And so the families and the survivors are kind of bracing themselves to what they are expecting to be some very difficult reading, as to will be the organisations, which are very likely to be criticised. So what exactly happens today? Very shortly after breakfast comes on fair, the families will be given the opportunity privately with their legal teams to read this report. And it won't be published publicly until the afternoon. At 2 o'clock, we're expecting the chairman, Sir John Saunders, to come into the courtroom in Manchester and make a statement about the report. We don't know a huge amount about what kind of size it will be, other than considerable, hundreds of pages. They will outline it, I think, and from then, I suppose we'll hear a reaction from potentially people who've been identified as this subjects of criticism, and the families being hearing it at the same time. The families will be seeing it this morning privately, and the media will be given some media be able to get as well as that. But then 2 o'clock is going to be publicly put online as well, I should say. So if people want to look at it, it will be put up on the inquiry's website.
I know you spend a lot of time because you saw me speak something a moment ago. It's very hard to imagine what this process is like for them. Just sort of talk us through how what you've seen of how they tried to digest what inevitably has been and will be very difficult things to do.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget either, Charlie, that this public inquiry, vast remit, but amongst its tasks is also to perform the inquests of the people who died. And so for those families, not just yet, but later on in the process, there will be a period in which we hear about the details of every one of the 22 people who died, how they died, and also very difficult territory, whether any of them could have been saved. There is the question, particularly over two of the John Atkinson, the youngest victims, Rose Russo. They had better, that is still to come. The other thing to just mention is, of course, the pandemic has been happening at the same time as all of this, and so the families originally went into the courtroom and had to, in many cases, now watch this remotely with the video links, and it's carried on going, but it hasn't been quite the same experience for them. That I'm sure has also been difficult to disconnect there. So some of them, I think, will be in court today with their lawyers and able to look at the report in person and digest it. It will take a long time to take it in, I'm sure.
And you just, on the timing, so the first, the public will hear this is
This afternoon as well, it will be made public and yeah, put on the website as well so people can read it.
So basically, I've got it from this morning, you were going to be going through all of that, and I know, and Julie, thank you, Julie's going to have a special report on this tonight, that's on at 8:30 on the News Channel and on the
Let's take a moment at 7:45 and look at the weather. Carol's there for us.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. This morning, some of us got a beautiful sunny start. As you can see here in Argyll and in Arrochar, sun is already out, but it's not the case everywhere. Something that is very much a common denominator, but it's temperatures in that they're mostly in double figures. It's a muggy start in the southeast, as you can see already it's 20 degrees in London, but for much of the rest of the UK, it's more comfortable. Now, over the next 48 hours at least, we're looking at further thunderstorms coming our way. We've seen a lot of parts of the southeast, but not everyone, even in the next 48 hours, will see them. But if you do catch one, the chances are it could be torrential. You could have as much as 50 millimetres in just a couple of hours from the biggest ones, with the risk of flash flooding. Last night in our Maxton in Kent, we had 30 millimetres of rainfall. So currently we've got rain coming up across the Channel Islands into parts of East Wales. We've also got another batch of thundery rain moving across the southeast. That will cool off into the North Sea, and we'll see further thundery storms develop behind this batch in the southeast. Move towards the west though, and we're looking at something drier and brighter with a fair bit of sunshine, with just one or two showers. If you find the sunshine in the west, we're looking at in Glasgow of 18, similarly in Belfast, that will feel pleasant. But once again, it's looking muggy. The tide rates are 24 in and around the London area. So if you're ahead, if you're up to Royal Ascot or indeed the tennis at Queen's. Now the other thing to bear in mind is if you have an allergy to pollen, look at these levels. They're high or very high across much of the UK today. So into the evening and overnight, we say goodbye to this line of rain. Some of it will still have some thunderstorms in it. We'll have a dry interlude, some clear skies across the north and the west. Then the next batch arrives only across the Channel Islands and into the southeast, but once again, it's going to be another muggy night. Now, we've got this rain, there will be some thunderstorms in it, but as I mentioned, not all of us will actually see them. But we do start with that band of rain through the course of tomorrow. It will be with us for a lot of the day. A bit of cloud ahead as well, with some brighter breaks developing, but the lion's share of any sunshine is going to be in the north and also the west, and that's where we will have the driest conditions and the freshest conditions as well. For temperatures tomorrow, 20 degrees in Cardiff. Now, through Friday evening and overnight, we still do have all this rain. Again, there will be some thunder and lightning in it. To the north of that, something drier, a few showers in parts of the west of Scotland. And then as we head on into Saturday, we say goodbye to that rain early on. The ridge of high pressure will be a process of things will be more settled. It will be a drier day, while some showers out towards the west. And it won't feel as muggy, but it has got this muggy in recent days. But we do have the weather front approaching from the west and another one approaching from the south. And they're all coming our way through the course of Saturday night and also into Sunday. So it's looking pretty bright on Saturday night and Sunday. It's just all northwards, obviously some dry issues in between as well.
Do you know what, Carol? The only thing is with this rain, I mean, lots of people would be really pleased that it's coming up and difficult to see the rain and farmers as well. If those with hay fever, we pointed out those high pollen, very high pollen levels in some places, and often when it rains, it just dampens it and makes it just that little bit easier.
It does, but often then when the sun comes out, it rises again too.
Okay, so we can go out in the rain for stuff from hay fever and then just run back indoors when it comes back. Thanks, Carol.
Going.
7:49 is the time now. Lots to celebrate, Mike, if you are a Welsh fan. Well, frankly, I mean, yesterday's football, you can't see goals. There were lots of goals. One of the most chances created in any game so far in Euro 2020, Turkey against Wales. Wales winning 2-0, incredible performance. Real resilience. They could have won by more. And I wonder if any fans celebrated by shouting back in the net if any played back in. I wonder if
Must have done. Must have done.
Charlie's work there. What was I actually do? Well, to be honest, I thought you wasted it. And I thought you were going to go the whole. Wales put it in the back of the net. Okay. We can work on that, and then we can pretend it's right. That's why it was your line, not mine, Charlie.
Well, because it wasn't good enough.
Anyway, this does sum up what a great night it was. The Welsh team will now move on from back in, having given back in net, with 4 points and on the verge of reaching the knockout phase. And it's the most incredible night to be there. For the team, the 500 so fans that did get out of there, and of course our correspondent Hal Griffith. Morning, Hal. So how was the night there after this incredible performance? The bar being raised even further by this Welsh team. I did wonder how the celebrations went.
Yeah, well, the 200 fans you spoke about will be up until the early hours, and then getting on early flights out of Baku, so I don't think there'll be much sleep. Instead, they'll be, well, thinking back over an incredible 90 minutes. Let's be honest, the last couple of years, some Wales performances have been pretty tense and turgid affairs. But last night, they refound the form that they showed in Euro 2016 when they made it all the way to the quarter-finals. At the centre of that was the link between Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey. Gareth Bale waiting perfect passes, Aaron Ramsey showing his skill and scoring in that first half. And then right at the end, just when the fans were praying, I think, for the final whistle, Connor Roberts popping up for a second. So yeah, the Welsh fans are in Greenland, only a few hundred here, thousands more back in Wales, frustrated of course by the COVID travel restrictions and the advice not to come here. But I think, well, from east to west of Europe last night, plenty of people chatting Cymru, come on, knowing that now they are more or less through to the next round.
Absolutely, we've just seen the goals actually there. We've also seen wild celebrations back in Cardiff. Many tears, I guess because it had been such a tense night, a roller coaster of a night. And be honest, what went through your mind was Gareth Bale had scored since October 2019, missed the penalty, it was scored at 1-0, you felt the noise and excitement in what 30,000 Turkish fans playing for that equaliser.
Absolutely. If there's anyone on that pitch who fancied to take a penalty, it was Gareth Bale. As you say, well overdue a goal. He's under such stress before he's been in Champions League finals, he's been there, done that. Yet somehow he skied it over the crossbar. At that moment, the 30,000 Turkish fans all around us, suddenly their blood rose. They thought, this is our chance, because Turkey, if they want to stay in this tournament, really had to win last night. But Wales broke through the storm, put their bodies on the line. The likes of Connor Roberts, Aaron Ramsey, tracking back out those tackles in. And then, as I said, that relief, just after 5 minutes of extra time, Wales not just holding on, but winning in style with that final goal. So yeah, I think it was tense. It was a bit of a roller coaster, but the drama at the end, well, I had a very happy ending.
Yeah, it just showed their togetherness, just to bounce back from that miss. It didn't matter. So it's a row, Hal, against the informal Italians, but it does matter less now because of this win and those 4 points.
Absolutely. The way this tournament works, you can finish third, and if you've got a strong enough position, you'll probably get through. But Wales won't rest on their laurels. They know that if they have a decent performance on Sunday against Italy, that will help their chances of finishing second, make it slightly easier to the next round. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. And as you say, Italy have been particularly strong. We saw how they dispatched the Swiss last night, Turkey in the week before. So I think Welsh expectations will be tempered.
I think a decent performance, a body didn't read that would be important. And then, well, where does the European journey take Wales next? Potentially if they finish second place on to Amsterdam, but the key thing is they have refound their form. There was a bit of magic there last night, and Wales, well, they could be the surprise of this tournament again.
Absolutely, how we'll get some breakfast, because talking of the Italians, well, why can't Wales go and win in Rome, even though the Italians are in ridiculous form, well, for that now, because of the Roberto Mancini's side. They've won both their group games 3-0 so far. The first team to qualify for the knockouts, it's not Switzerland in Rome. That's some daunting stats for all the other teams. To get frightened by, it's how Italy have now lost, well, haven't lost any of their last 29 matches. I think they're 29 matches. They've also won their last 10. In those games, they've scored 31 goals without conceding a single one. Now, Finland were also in action for the first time last night since beating Denmark in that match that was overshadowed completely by Christian Eriksen's cardiac arrest. They came out to play Russia in Get Well Soon, Christian t-shirts there. But in the match, Russia were one of the winners. I must say, Vucic scored the only goal. Now, we can talk about Pearson has become only the fourth female jockey to ride a winner at Royal Ascot. Of course, Lola Shogger, Kensington Palace Stakes, the 20-year-old admitted she wouldn't believe it happened. It's a dream come true, won by just under 11 to follow. Kenway, Turner, and Victoria. Beautiful sunny 2 days so far, but for Ladies' Day, perhaps the warm weather, I think, is what Carol was saying. There's rain and clouds over us.
Good news is the ground will soften, so it's easier to walk on.
Really?
Yes,
Anyway,
exactly, that's what I was thinking. Excellent.
7:55, therapy dog Digby usually helps firefighters who've been exposed to trauma. Now he's been called a hero after saving young woman who was on the verge of taking up
Uncle's Fiona is with Digby and his handler, Matt, this morning. Fiona, oh look, you must have a treat in your hand, otherwise you would make friends very, very quickly. Morning.
Good morning, yes, welcome. We are at Devon Sunset Farm Rescue. Before we go any further, let me introduce you to 3-year-old Digby Baby, who is treat now. Gosh, you've been waiting patiently. He is a Labradoodle. He's 3 years old, and he is the first fire and rescue therapy dog in the UK. And as you were just saying, on Tuesday, 2 days ago, he was part of a team that helped save the young woman's life. So let's just bring in his handler. Good morning to you. This is Matt, and Matt, just tell us a little bit about what Digby does day to day normally.
So, Digby's a pet, and he loves life, and he loves people. He's really enthusiastic about everything, which makes him a perfectly voluntary role. And he supports me with the delivery of critical incident debriefing, and acts as a therapy dog. So he's really good at engaging with the crews when they return from stressful incidents, and he's able to just crash out and relax in the room. And that way we can get more out of it. And by getting more out of it, we can process the experience that individuals have had at those traumatic incidents, and that can help us reduce the likelihood of onset of post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's real value in that.
So tell us what happened this Tuesday, because we've never had an incident where he's been involved like this before.
That's right. So on Tuesday, there was a multi-agency response to an incident, and they were dealing with a situation where an individual was in a very vulnerable location, and was in a vulnerable position psychologically as well. So we're well versed at responding to incidents like that, and we've got all 3 emergency services on scene. Police negotiators are doing their best to engage with the individual, and we've got specialist assets with hydraulic platforms and specialist rescue teams. But unfortunately, the individual wasn't prepared for any of those resources to come anywhere near her, so we're unable to deploy and put in place any sort of plan to resolve the incident. So that took some outside box type of thinking.
Suddenly get this call, you
I
weren't
call
even
out of the blue, I happened to be around the corner, and some creative thinking. They suggested that Digby might be able to help the situation. So Digby, working with the police negotiators, went over to the individual, and there was an immediate response.
So tell us what happened, it's a big essence. What did you see unfold?
So quite literally, the area was sterile. The police and their negotiators were doing their best to liaise with the individuals. contact, and they were able then to start talking about their own experiences with dogs, and through the negotiators, they were able to encourage the person to place of safety, so it enabled the situation to be resolved. And it was a really great outcome.
What was it like seeing your dog bring someone back to safety? You must have been so proud.
Well, he had no idea. As far as he was concerned, it was just a bit of a game. But it was a really good thing to witness, and yeah, it was just a special moment. But of course, it highlights the fact that we all need to discuss and talk about mental health issues, and that awareness will allow people to understand those sorts of situations, and there's help and support out there for people to get should they find themselves in those tricky situations.
You can see Lizzie, he's incredibly calm. I mean, he's great. You know, what a calm he is. You know, he's just been lying in front of you very obediently the whole way throughout the morning. I'm incredibly calm myself. It's been an absolute pleasure. And me thinking.
Love Dickwood. Love Dickwood.
There is a lot of calm.
Welcome. Everyone's coming.
He's an absolute genius.
Like it or not, this is the future of football.
Impossible to ignore. Streaming now on iPlayer.
Good morning, welcome to breakfast today on Jetty and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. More to come. Dominic Cummings warns that he will continue his attacks on the government's handling of the pandemic after revealing details of private messages from the Prime Minister.
Council's MPs give the green light to extending COVID restrictions until the 19th of July, despite more than 50 Conservatives voting against the move.
After the life of footballer Christian Eriksen was saved with the use of a defibrillator, there are calls for the devices to be made more readily available in the UK.
Good morning, tempting travellers back onto the trains. There's a number of passengers on our railways forced for a record load. I'm here at Euston finding out whether a speed record attempt is enough to get customers back on board.
Good morning. Wales are wondering how far they can go now after their magical performance from Gareth Bale and co. After their convincing win over Turkey, they're now on the verge of the Euro 2020 knockout phase.
Good morning. Once again, today we're looking at some rain coming out across parts of England and Wales. Some of that will be thundery. We won't all see it. The brightest skies, so will be north and west with some sunshine and 1 or 2 showers. I'll have all the details coming up in about 10 minutes.
Good morning. It's Thursday the 17th of June. Our top story is that Dominic Cummings has warned that he will continue his attack on the government's handling of the pandemic.
Prime Minister's former advisor said there was more to come after he published what he says are private messages from Boris Johnson criticising the health secretary.
Cummings' MPs backed the government's decision to extend COVID restrictions in England until next month in an effort to halt the spread of the Delta variant. James Reynolds.
The Commons approved the government's decision to delay ending COVID restrictions in England until the 19th of July.
The ayes have it unlocked.
51 Conservative MPs opposed it. That's the second biggest Tory revolt of this Parliament. But it's not the backbenchers who worry this government the most. Dominic Cummings, former Prime Ministerial advisor and current amateur jogger, has released a series of damaging private messages from the early days of the pandemic. In March last year, Mr. Cummings sent a late-night message to Boris.
I'll tell you what's like, when we finish this cottage makeover, we've got thousands ongoing.
Hello? Is everybody on?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm out. I think I better be getting back to Joseph. Any forum. Let's say you got something on your mind.
Not from you, lovely man, is it?
I know what's up with you. Woman trouble. Am I right? Oh, I thought so. Let me give you a bit of advice. You're wasting your time there.
Whiskey, do you want a non-drink?
Very good, Tricia. You're already out in front of these, no, Andy's got it. He's on a double. Gold star.
Hey, Pat. There goes ladies, isn't it?
Star? Top?
You know what? I'm going to play it. Just goes ladies. Oh, you understand for that. What damn work took on?
I'm being treated like a student by that jolt up bag. She's so done better.
And let's look at it.
It's going to cost her more than she thinks. Did you manage to talk Sarah around it? You've been pointless trying. Well, we just have to let the course decide then, won't we? I'd like to go back to Australia. I need to be ashamed. And that's a first. Look, I don't mind jealousy, Kathy, but what we're doing is wrong. Do you think I don't know that? It's tearing her apart. I said you should have stayed away. It's not me coming back that's the problem. It's the way I left. Okay? So we're here. We've sound your conscience. Can't you leave us to get on with our lives? We'll go back to how it was. It can't, can it? She's only going to tell us what she thinks we want to hear. Elsa, she doesn't want to hurt either of us. What are we going to do? Proud sponsors vending.
It is your wedding day, the happiest day of your life.
You should be marrying me. He still wants me. You can trust him.
Is there or no trust?
Who says I can't get him back?
Sweetheart.
Yes?
This week on Emmerdale on ITV. Or watch all this week's episodes now on ITV Home.
Is football going to affect your routine? What are you inclined to sexually love? Well, we've got a solution for you. Everyone's daydream, Euros Rage Rocking that week's episodes of Emmerdale and Coronation Stream on the ITV Hub. Not only can your soaps be on ITV, but every day, look them on the ITV Hub. Now, that's the results.
The tour that has it all, the Tour of France, starts the 26th of June. Watch live on ITV4 or stream live on ITV Hub.
Now here on ITV3, off to the 60s and 80s feel, it's Heartbeat.
Mobility products from Careco. Proud sponsors of ITV3 Mornings.
Alright, let's Weekends.